Hi, I'm Carl Lucci with the I Refuse to Fail Partnership and 1530 events. At our 1530 free networking events, we pick a topic of the day. And today we're going to be talking about networking misconceptions. And what I mean by misconceptions is I think that there's a lot of people that network that never were instructed or trained or told the proper way to network. And we all have experienced, probably, most likely, being in a one-to-one or in a group session or a speed networking thing where either somebody occupies the whole time or they're constantly selling. And it's very unfortunate. And I think that networking events and groups, a lot of them, it's nobody's fault. It's just because they're following what they've seen other people do. But it's gotten to where they have turned it into a trade show. And to me, and to most people who understand networking, it's about building relationships. It has nothing to do with you selling something to somebody. And basically, the reason why our group follows the Zig Ziglar philosophy is that, we feel if you can help enough other people, you'll become known, liked, and trusted, and then everybody's helping everybody. So I'm going to open this up to the room. And if one of you all would like to start, I think Diane said that she would be happy to start with something that she recently encountered. And we'll talk about some situations that you might have encountered and then how you overcame them. I might ask you a question or two, and then we'll go on to the next one, but we don't need to make it real long, okay? So, Diane, why don't you kick off?
Thank you, Carl. I know you're right about many people not understanding what networking is about. Just this morning, I was visiting with a woman who had shared with me in email, I am not a candidate for your product or service. I said, no problem. I'd love to meet you and explore. I'm interested in your subject matter. She is a freelance writer for health and wellness. I help people with health. And I just thought it was fascinating what she was doing. I was interested in how she got into, writers can write about anything. Why did she pick technology of the medical industry, right? So it took probably about 12 minutes to get over her fear and her need to continue to remind me that she wasn't interested in buying product. And I never once did a spiel. I never once tried to take her down the path of convincing. I was just asking her questions about how she got into her own arena. I think the science of redox cell signaling is fascinating. And so that's what I was trying to correlate with what she does. How does she pick a technology to write about? It was really interesting to see how wounded she was, how genuine I was about just, I finally asked the question, how can I help you? Who are you looking for to write articles for? Who do you pitch your services to? And she was just flabbergasted, didn't know how to answer the question, really thought there was an underlying agenda. I call that a wounded warrior from networking.
No, you're right. No, you're right. You're right. And there's a lot of them out there that have blown away. Um, there is a national organization. I don't know if they're still in business or not, but they did live events only at high-end locations. And it was called Networking After Work. It was really good. They would have 80 to 150 people in the room. You paid $15. You went there, no agenda. You just went in and you network with people. And of course, everybody would come up and say, "Hi, I'm Jane and I'm selling Mary Kay. Would you like to buy my product?" Everybody was there pitching. Okay. And I thought, this is not networking. I don't understand what they don't understand. And so I decided I was going to blow people's minds. So I went over one night and I went up and the other thing is everybody that knew everybody got into a clutch and talked to each other. They weren't talking to new people. So, and which, why? But anyway, so I would go in and I would go up to somebody and I'd say, "Hey, I'm Carl." And they would say they're Jim. And then Jim would say, "Oh, so Carl, what do you do?" I said, "Well, I'm a business consultant, but what do you do?" And they would tell me what they did. And I said, "Great." And they said, "Well, tell me more about your consulting." I said, "Well, you know what? I really don't have time to talk about me tonight, but I really would like to know more about you. Can you tell me what you do here and there?" And you know what? Look, there's a lot of people in the room. would it be okay if I contacted you for a cup of coffee next week or something? Maybe we could meet because I think I have somebody that might be interested. Yeah, but Carl, what about you? And well, we're not talking about me tonight. I'm here to try to help you. And it would just blow their minds that I wasn't trying to sell them something. They just didn't get it. Okay. That it wasn't about me. It was supposed to be about them. And you know, we reciprocate in everything, I feel. We're a reciprocal society, whether it's good or bad. If somebody cuts you off on the highway, you want to get up there and shoot them a bird. Okay, you're going to reciprocate some way. Okay, but if somebody lets you in so you can make a left-hand turn, my goodness, you would like to thank that person. Okay, so we always want to do it. So anytime that we can do that, and Diane, I know exactly what you're talking about. It blows people's minds when you make it about them. It's very difficult, I feel, for anybody who has been in sales for any period of time to get out of that sales mode. You know, they have to retrain their brain that this is a different marketing method than they're used to. It isn't about you letting them know how wonderful you are. First of all, they don't give a damn. Okay. They really don't. Okay. All they care about is them. And I can prove that, but this is another long story I'm not going to go to. So, but I appreciate that, Diane, because you're absolutely right. It just blows their mind. Anybody else in the room have a story or something they'd like to say? Please raise your hand. Anybody else? Oh, Santa. Okay.
You know, it's so predominant that they, like you say, it's not even just the North American market. I network with people all around the world, and when you start asking about them and their story and their, especially their backstory, it's amazing how many people suddenly get they get tongue tied because for whatever reason, they've been brainwashed, like you have said, to go, I'm selling, 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 and they don't want to talk about them. And you know what? I am so proud, and I say this to everybody that I network around the world, and I've created some amazing relationships, some friendships from around the world because, like you have said over and over and over in this couple minute speech, find out who they are, find out what makes them tick. Don't ask them about their business. Find out who they are. Find out if they have children. Find out if they have grandchildren. What did they do as a teenager? And all of a sudden they get, you know, tongue tied because this is not normal. And and how do we change that analogy? Do we say, have you watched video networking 101 made by XYZ on learning how to network? I don't know if that's a proper way to approach this idea, but we need to knock on some doors, to knock on some brain cells to say networking is not selling, networking is communicating.
Oh, I muted myself. Sorry. No, you're absolutely right, Santa. And it isn't always easy, but I have been known in a one-to-one or in a networking situation to absolutely just stop the person and say, excuse me, I mean, in a polite way. Say, you know, I appreciate what you do and all that. And I appreciate you want to sell me what you have. But today is not the day to do that. What I'd really like to find out is more about you and what you do. And then, you know, maybe you'll have the opportunity to find out a little bit more about me. And then we can start some kind of a strategic relationship. And honestly, you know, I can tell you haven't done a lot of networking. And if you'd like, I'd set up another time with you and we can spend an hour and I'll try to help you understand how to get more out of your networking. Would that be okay with you, George? You know, and then you go, and if they say no, then say, well, you know what, it's really been great seeing you, but I have some networking I have to do, and I'll talk to you later. I mean, you can do it in a nice way. And so that's I've done that a lot of times. Okay, not a lot, but when I see the opportunity and I see somebody that just didn't know, it's not their fault, they just didn't know, you know. So I appreciate that, Santa. Louise.
Well, I wanted to address Diane's comment about the woman being a wounded networker. It sounded to me like she was really a journalist, and journalists are trained to ask the questions, not receive the questions. And they're also if she is writing about health, then some editor assigned it to her. She didn't choose it. So I don't think that Diane can put that negative on that person.
I don't think that she's putting a negative on the person. She's just saying that she didn't, I mean, she's still a person, whether she's a journalist or whatever. And maybe she just not had experienced how networking was. But Diane, your name was evoked, so you're welcome to comment on that.
No one picks her topics. She picks her topics. She is a sole proprietor in her freelance writing. She doesn't work for a journalist.
Well, I think even if it were the case that Louise is talking about, she's still a person, and if she's networking, you know, you don't want to go somewhere and do something that's not right. You always want to do it the way the platform is designed, not have the platform conform to you. So you know, you would have every right to try to explain to that person that this is not networking in a nice way. You can, you know, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So. But I don't disagree with you, Louise, on what you're saying, that that situation could happen, because there's a lot of situations like that where people are misinformed. So, you know, anyway. Okay, so Tom?
Yes, thank you. I teach networking and have taught a lot of people, and I have two small things to bring to, not small, two important things to bring to the table. Number one is you've got to set your mind on the right objective when you go into networking, and it's not to sell. Nobody likes to buy from you in a networking meeting. Instead, you should set your objective to get the follow-up, to meet with someone so that you can have an opportunity to have a personal conversation. Number two, most of you likely know Bob Burg. He wrote the book, The Go-Giver. We've been talking Go-Giver principles in different ways all afternoon here. About 15 years ago, he gave to me a list of his favorite networking questions. There's one that's a killer. Here's his best networking question. When you meet someone, ask them this question. Oleg, if I happen to meet someone, how would I know they're the perfect person to introduce to you? Now, when you think about Oleg or whomever you're asking that question of, when they hear that, they've heard something they never expected to hear. Number two, when they give you an answer, you get an answer. But then they'll ask you the same question, and now you're communicating. So remember, the question is always about the other person and how you can serve or support them or introduce someone to them. Thank you.
You're
Carl's
absolutely
playing
right,
goofy
Tom.
tonight.
I have encountered that many times, and you know, it's all about giving. It's in networking, and if people could get that and grasp it, I think they'd find out that it does work. It is a marathon, though. It's not a sprint. It takes time to develop those relationships, and not everybody's going to be a good relationship. But you know, when I quit conventional networking, when I didn't understand it, quit my own group, I did some research, and I asked over 3,200 people, how many people go to networking events to buy? Not one said they went there to buy anything. But 85% of them said they went there to sell. Okay. And so if nobody's buying and you're going there to sell, what happens? Nothing. So why do it? I mean, it's just, why do it? It's a waste of time. So go there with the right reason. But you're absolutely right, Tom. So Oleg?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple of things, slightly negative, but I'm going to try to stay positive here. I think what's happening is when people go to these networking events, goes to Diane's point, is there is because of technology, there is oversaturation of amount of information being dumped on people. So if before you used to have a door-to-door salesman bring his vacuum cleaner, come into the house, show you how it works, everything else, going back to the 50s here, nowadays you have literally thousands of these salespeople hitting you with emails, everything else daily. And so I think people wind up getting this wall put up where it says, if you're gonna, and also, so that's one point. Second point, if you go to these events where even though everybody theoretically understands what you're talking about, that it's all about relationships, it's all about not selling directly, things like that. At the same time, you see, I personally would challenge the 85% number. I think it's closer to 100% of these people coming to sell. That's all they're doing. They're being told, do not put your sales information in the chat. What do? They fill the chat. They tell them, do not sell. What do? Immediately, as soon as you start talking, my name is such and such, I sell blah, 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 or I offer this and this. So it's just, they understand, but at the same time, they don't do it. And so I think what the challenge here is first of all, I completely agree with both what you said, Carl, and what Tom said, which is the follow-up is the key. So you need to start talking to these people. And in a lot of these networking events, you end up getting into these breakout rooms. You have 6 minutes. And so first, then you introduce the concept of everybody being different. You can't approach whatever you're going to say to people in the same way you approach it with everybody. It just doesn't work. People are different, so it's a different approach. But you only have 6 minutes. And then you have some bozo, pardon my French here, that comes out and, I had a situation where some lady was talking and he says, your time is up. We only have 2 minutes. It's like, what is with you? Where is even a modicum of decency? The woman is talking, let her finish. If you're not going to get your spiel in, trying to sell your stuff, then you won't. Okay, so it's not like the end of the world or anything, but the guy was so rude. And my question is to those kind of people, it's like, what are you accomplishing? Nobody in this panel that was talking at that time would ever even consider, at least I would never consider giving you any business based on your attitude. I don't know this woman. I have no idea who she is, but you do not interrupt somebody like this in the middle, because it's like back in the old days in Soviet Union where people just push people around in a line saying, they want to get in before everybody else. Since when? There is a line, you stay in the back of the line. So it's all of these things, I think, if you put them all together, I think the key is, you do need to build relationships with people. You're not going to do it in 5 minutes or 6 or 7 minutes. You have to meet with them, like Tom said, after the fact, talk to them. Maybe something will come out of it, maybe nothing. It's no different than making friends. Sometimes you make friends in all the weirdest places, sometimes you don't. And I realize that everybody is trying to sell stuff. I mean, that's kind of in the back end, that's what everybody's trying to do. They don't go to these networking meetings most of the time to make friends. But at the same time, the approach, like you said, Carl, it's not so much about the process itself, it's the approach. Yes, you are trying in the back of your mind to sell something, but there's different ways of handling it. Some of us have these horrible accents like I do. Some of us have wonderful accents like Jackie, which is why I come to these meetings. But seriously, though, I think that's the key, is the follow-up and then being genuine, being yourself. One of my ex-friends used to say, be yourself, because everybody else is taken.
There you go. You're right. And everything you said there was correct. And actually, when you said you challenged the 85%, oh yeah, I challenged it too. I said that's what they said. Not that I necessarily believed it. Most people are going there to sell. But there's 2 other misconceptions that I want to cover while we're talking about it, because you brought up that you're going to be in a breakout room for 6 minutes. There's a lot of speed networking, they call it, where you go in and you got a few people in there and you're in there for 6 or 8 minutes. You really don't have any time to build a relationship. All you have time to do is say something and somebody occupies it, well, then it's gone. And then you have another one. And most of those meetings, a lot of them that are on, some of the more popular platforms that are out there that have those, you'll have 150, 200 people, sign up for these. And then of course, half of those show up, but it's still 75 people. How many of those people do you think you're actually going to meet? So to me, it's not about the numbers of people in the room. It's about the people in the room. I really like it when there's a smaller group. I think you get a lot more done. You get more time to meet with each other. And that's kind of why we have structured the 1530 events the way we do, and the I Refuse to Fail, because it makes no difference to me if only one other person shows up. We'll have some great time together. But you don't know how many times that I've had an event, whether it was when I was doing live events in person or these, I said, well, how many people come to your meeting? I was, well, why do you ask? Well, I'd just like to have an idea so I know, whether it's worth me coming or not. So what they're telling me is I want a lot of people that I can tell about what I do. Okay, I want to promote to a mass. I want to advertise. I want to be a billboard for masses of people. Well, you can do that because I guess, like I always say, a blind squirrel gets a nut sometimes, but it's rare. So that's really a rough way of using networking to market. So it's not about the number of people, it's about the people that show up. And if you keep it that way, everybody in the room today, and some have spoken, some have not, but we all know each other because we come back and constantly get in front of people. You can't network, go to one time, I call them networking nomads, where they go from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting because there's hundreds of them, in hopes that they're going to find that one nut, they can win over. But no, all good comments. Santa?
Hey, I think Oleg hit a prime thing that we've missed out all of our conversations on. Attitude. Going into a network meeting with a very crappy attitude is not going to win you any brownie points. And how many times have we talked to someone that says, oh, blah, 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 this is happening to me? That's not going to score you any brownie points at all either. And who wants to continue a conversation that is always negative or bad things that have happened to me? So I think that needs to be a big one with check your attitude at the door when you walk into a meeting.
Yeah, no stinking thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, good. Chris?
I just have a couple simple things. With Tom's remark about how do I know that they're the perfect person for you to meet? It's kind of what gets discussed at these meetings when a new person comes. What sets you apart? Louise, I've heard you ask that of a lot of people. What sets you apart from everybody else, right? And then, Carl, I've heard you say this a million times. If you're not distinct, you'll be extinct. So it's that, we say that all the time. The founder of Relive says you have to have the skin of a rhinoceros. And he says of our company that our company is more of a self-growth company wrapped up in a health company. And a lot of networking is terrifying. When you're reaching out to make a relation, person, right? When you're reaching out to have a communication instead of, I have this for you. It's scary because you're facing rejection. You're facing, oh, who are you to think that? We can talk. And that's scary. You have to have a thick skin to do that. And so it's something to think about. And that's why people don't kind of do that because they're scared. And once you start building that skin, it gets easier and easier. So
You're absolutely right. And you brought up something that made me think of something else about the perfect person. I used to use this in one of the, when I was doing training on networking, I would say, so I'm going to give you a scenario. You got 30 people in the room, all business people, and you got one janitor. And so do you network with the janitor? And most everybody says, no. Well, why? Well, that person has nothing to do, can't help me. I don't know how I can help a janitor. How do you know? And how do you know the janitor it doesn't work for a CEO of a company that's got thousands of people that you need to be connected to that he knows personally? How do you know? So don't preconceive somebody's in the room that, oh, that person's not going to be a good person to meet. That person could be the best person you met all day. And he's a janitor. And I don't mean to make that a negative. I'm just saying that it's not many janitors attend networking, but it could be a diamond in the rough. So, we're all guilty of it. I've done it too. In fact, I have had meetings that I'm going to have with somebody and say, oh boy, this is going to be a real snoozer, right? And they were better than the ones that I thought that were going to be really good. Okay, so you don't ever want to preconceive something. But Chris, when you said that, it made me think of that. So, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, Carl. It's really who's in the room and who they know. It might not necessarily be the exact person that you meet, and you might not do business directly with that person. But again, it's who they know or who they might introduce you to. I belong to a lot of different networking groups over the years. Some of them are in-person networking group where it's one person per business category. So it kind of teaches you the concept of getting up there, doing your commercials, which I think is still good practice to do. But I think but then you lock out other categories. So I think what it ends up teaching businesses is that, oh, well, there's another realtor, there's another insurance person, or another web guy or something like that. I shouldn't talk to that person. That's not the case. I've actually found that it's better to work with people in the same industry, because you guys can work together on a lot of different things. And depending how you approach networking, if you're out there talking with like-minded people that have maybe similar backgrounds, but maybe there's some crossover, you'll find that you meet a lot of people that you might never have met before. Like if I wouldn't have joined this networking group, for example, I wouldn't have met Oleg or anyone else in this group ever. I mean, no matter what kind of in-person event I would have gone to, Oleg's across the water here. So there's no way that I probably would have ran into him other than being in this group. So I think it's important to be yourself, be genuine when you're networking. That those people are the ones that you're going to be able to kind of connect with and develop those connections and relationships. It's all about relationship building, and yeah. So
Yeah, and everybody here, I think, in this room today understands that. And unfortunately, there's probably 95% of the people out there that don't. But I do want to, I'm going to close this out a little bit with one other thing that I think is very important. Whether you come to our event or you go to another one, find one or two events that you really like and dedicate yourself to that event. Don't just hop around everywhere. Find a couple that you really like, because if you show up just once or once in a while, people aren't going to remember you. Okay, they're going to go on to the next one. And for heaven's sakes, when I say support that event, the lifeblood of these, if you all don't know, if you've never run an event, it's not easy. Okay, and it's a very simple concept, but it's not easy. And you can't expect the director or the group leader, whatever they call themselves, for them to bring everybody there for you to meet. You know, you're going to have to take a little time out, maybe 15 minutes a week or 20, whatever you can do. If you don't know anybody, I understand. But if you have people you know, like, and trust, for heaven's sakes, invite them to that event or to that meeting. Okay. You know, unless it's one of the ones that is trying to close the door and not let you out until you pay a fee or something. But if it's an event that you really like and you support, then invite people to it, because that's how what you're doing is helping that person meet other people, and those people meet them, and that makes you a hero in their eyes if that works out well. But nothing works 100% of the time. But if you don't do it at all, nothing happens. So you know, I'm going to kind of close it out with that. And I appreciate all the contribution today, and I think it was really good. I hope people, you know, some people watch this, especially the ones that maybe don't understand networking, and this is only part of it. I'm probably going to do another networking workshop or something, and you know, have people come to it, and we'll explore even more, because there's really a lot to it. It's a very simple concept, but it's not an easy concept. So with that, I'm going to stop the recording.